I'm Michael Keane, I'm not wearing pants, and this is another Vinegar Syndrome unboxing and review. So, yeah, 3 titles for the month of August. I know this video is a little late. It's already, September 4th, but I suck, and Dragon Con is this weekend. It's kind of taken up some time, and, oh man, guys, I gotta tell you, man, Dragon Con comes first, y'all. I don't care how virtual it is. Dragon Con comes first. So this is going to be a pretty short video, honestly, because I really, not only do I have a bunch of just like watching Dragon Con stuff and hanging out with the fam to do, but I don't really have a lot of opinions on these titles. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just how much I can divulge. So let's just dig in. We're going to talk about these in order from least to best. Full just disclosure at the beginning, I didn't hate any of these. I don't think any of them are necessarily bad movies, but I definitely had a least favorite and I definitely had a favorite. So let's just start off with Pandemonium.
Everyone will see your dirty pillows.
Those aren't dirty pillows, Mama. They're breasts.
Not those. Those are titties. Those are dirty pillows.
Those aren't my dirty pillows, Mama. They're his dirty pillows.
They're not dirty pillows. They're breasts.
Pandemonium. So Pandemonium. First off, this is such a interesting cover for this film because it is not this movie at all. Now, is it the alternate insert artwork? Yes, it is definitely this movie, 100%. But this movie, I don't know what movie this is, but it's not this. Now, the fun thing about this is it actually does contain all of the elements that are in the movie. The milk, the psychic powers for Carol Kane's character. We got Judge Reinhold over here looking like a derpy little son of a bitch.
Mandy. Candy. Candy.
Randy.
Andy. Glenn. Huh? Glenn Dandy.
We've got all these things on the cover that are in the movie, but it's telling a different tonal story. That being said, I really like this slipcover. I think it's a great slipcover. It's just, it doesn't really represent the film that I watched. The film is basically sort of like, if you've seen Wacko, also from Vinegar Syndrome, you kind of get a general idea of what it is. The humor is not the exact same, but it is a similar style of spoof. And, you know, I appreciate it for what it is. Alfred Soule directed this. He, of course, is the director of Alice, Sweet Alice, which blew my mind when I realized it was the same guy. And, you know, in the interview on the disc, he says that he's more a horror guy than a comedy guy. And you can tell. This is not necessarily the funniest movie in the world. It does have a lot of positive elements. As I mentioned, Carol Kane is in this in a very early role. She's great. Judge Reinhold almost steals the show. He just really isn't allowed to due to the script. We also get Tab Hunter in this film, and Tab Hunter is great. He's not in it quite as much as I would like, but it's still Tab Hunter, and Tab Hunter was thebomb.com. Of course, most notable for his role in Polyester and being fucking great in that. Let's see, what does the disc actually say it's about? In 1963, a group of college cheerleading students were brutally slain by a mysterious killer, resulting in the closure of the school they attended. Now, former student and professional cheerleader Bambi has decided to reopen the institution. As new students arrive, it's not long before the murderer makes his presence known and the bloody hijinks resume. Even worse, the only hope of unmasking the culprit falls upon an overworked Canadian Mountie. And at the bottom it says, jam-packed with bizarre humor and even stranger death sequences. Yeah, they are some strange death sequences. There's some real weird deaths in this movie. And I appreciate it to a degree. I do think that I wish it had gone more of a horror route. But that plot summary is, it is the movie, yeah. It's just, it pings back and forth between all sorts of, not even styles of humor, but just levels of outrageousness. And there's just so many jokes that fall so flat and are just so not funny. But then there's also a lot of really good belly laughs. I think I like Wacko's actual gags a bit more. I think it's a funnier film. but I think that Pandemonium is certainly more charming. It has more of like a real go-getter's vibe. It feels more earnest. But either which way, they both have a ton of cringe that kind of outweigh the humor. So this is not a great film, but I did see a lot of people on like the Vinegar Syndrome Facebook group and other places that really enjoyed the humor, really worked for them. So I think, if you liked wacko, you'll probably really enjoy this. If you like dumb humor, you'll enjoy this. And if you're okay with failed comedy horror movies, then you'll enjoy this. Obviously, we've been over this before. I am not a big fan of failed comedy horror movies, so not as much for me. But I definitely will revisit this one. It's just weird enough and just kitschy enough to work for me. But that being said, definitely the weakest of the bunch as a film.
Do you have anything that's real bad?
There's Tuesday special.
What's so bad about that?
Today's Thursday.
As far as extras, we get a promotional stills gallery. You know how much I love my promotional stills galleries. And we also get Dying of Laughter, which is an interview with director Alfred Soul, as I mentioned. And that's about 14 minutes and change, just a hair under 15 minutes. And it's a good interview. It is definitely... he's a very amiable kind of guy. And, I would say it's the best interview of the bunch for this month. It's definitely my favorite interview. It's well shot, which is kind of rare. So it looks good. He's very informative. I did not feel like he was 100% certain that this was a good film, but that's fine. He talks about kind of the ingenuity that needed to take place in order to make the film, how it was a bit of a challenge because there was no money and there were a ton of physical gags to create, and so he had to use his imagination for that. And so that was nice, and actually it adds another layer to the film, which I really enjoy. I really like when interviews, give me that little extra bit of appreciation for a film for the next time I watch it. So good stuff there. And next up, Indecent Exposure. So middle one. This is actually the top two are a bit of are close. Indecent Exposure didn't hold my attention as much as I maybe would have liked. I'd heard a lot of good things about this film, and it is a very good porno. It is a very solid porno. For all you pervs out there, it is a very sensual film. There's a lot of great sex scenes, so if you're looking for that, great stuff.
I think it's disgusting. All he ever thinks about is sex.
Sex? Someone call?
If you've ever wanted to see a woman get fucked with a celery stick, this is for you. This is the movie for you.
June, get the cameras ready. We work all night. Avanti.
Tony Ross, a photographer by trade, uses his position and influence to seduce his beautiful young models. But when his best friend Ted, who has just gotten divorced, turns to him as a shoulder to cry on, Tony invites him to join on a road trip, promising that he'll get lucky along the way. Also along for the ride are Tony's frustrated girlfriend Lila and his assistant June, who begins to have feelings for Ted. But their journey takes an unexpected twist when they arrive at the home of the mysterious Arielana. Yeah, that's the movie. with a little bit extra, because that Arielana stuff happens tail end. Like that's like the last 30 minutes. But yeah, that's the movie. It does take a little while to get going. Not for the fucking. The fucking is obviously throughout, but it takes a while for the plot to really engage. But when it does, it really does. And I think the final third of the film really ties it all together. They bring in Georgina Spelvin, and she plays this almost like femdom obsessed psychologist type character who like kind of just breaks down and rebuilds our characters before our very eyes using fucking. And I thought that was really enjoyable. Stars, let's see, Veronica Hart, Jesse St. James, Richard Bola, Eric Edwards, and Arcadia Lake. Richard Bola, I think is that the one? Robert Kerman, yep. Robert Kerman, I love Robert Kerman. Robert Kerman always shows, he's in Public Affairs as well. And Public Affairs is easily my favorite porno that I've watched from Vinegar Syndrome. And this one, again, does not rank that high, but I would say it's pretty high up there. It's definitely one I would be interested in revisiting. I like that it's very character-based. I like that it's very, there's very much a narrative driving all of this. It does get very silly at times. There is one scene that's really, really funny involving a strap-on that then leads to kind of an awkward, jokey scene about rape, which in the moment is fine, but taken out of context, has not aged well.
I was raped. You were raped. Raped. She was raped. She was raped.
She raped me. She raped. You were raped. Yes. By this.
Yeah. But all the performances are really solid. I mean, there's really, of the main cast, no bad acting, which is, of course, very refreshing. That really helps these kind of films. That's one of the things I liked about Public Affairs, is it really did not feel like a porno until they were fucking. And it's similar here. You could take out all the sex, maybe add in a few more plot beats just to fill in that time that you're missing, and you would have a perfectly good kind of sex comedy. So good stuff there. Unfortunately, we only get a trailer for extras, so that's a negative, but otherwise, solid stuff. Good job, Vinegar Syndrome, on this release.
Well, my five-fingered friend, it looks like we're going to be spending a lot of time together. Alone. We've been cut off.
And The Caller. The Caller is... I wasn't sure what to expect.
I wonder if that tow truck's arrived.
The thing about murder, circumstances of murder, is that they don't have to be complicated.
On a cold winter night, a woman living alone in the middle of the woods receives an unexpected visitor, a mysterious middle-aged man who asks to use her phone. Obliging the stranger, it soon becomes apparent that they might know more about each other than they're letting on. As hours and then days pass, the two become engaged in a series of bizarre and sinister mind games, uncovering unnerving secrets along the way. All the while, the ongoing confrontation begs the question of what mysterious events are transpiring in the nearby woods. This slipcover is very similar to the Pandemonium cover. It does not exactly belie what you are about to watch. There is a bit of a cat and mouse game going on, so you get that. But they really focus on the phone aspect because, you know, the caller. But it's not actually what the movie's about. And, you know, it might, I don't know how the original ad campaign went. It might have something to do with the phone thing because they do, I mean, he does use the phone, but it's not like he's calling her and like, you know, it's not the killer's in the house, you got to get out of there type thing. The phone is barely an aspect of the film. He is literally the caller. So Malcolm McDowell, Madeline Smith. Malcolm McDowell does a great... Actually, they both do. They both do a great job. This is interesting for a few reasons. First off, it's basically like a stage play that takes place within a kind of soap opera set, cabin in the woods type thing. And they built all this for the movie. Like, it's all purpose-built. And for the longest time, for like literally most of the movie, I was like, why is it... why did they decide to make it look this way? Why did they make it look like so cheap and so staged? And when they finally get to the big reveal, like I saw an element of it coming. I definitely could feel it was going in a certain direction, but then they actually reveal everything and it's a total just knock you on your ass moment. It's so good. It is such a great twist. It's the kind of twist that if the movie before it had not been very good, I actually probably wouldn't have minded. I honestly would have allowed the fact that the movie kind of sucked just to have that good of a twist. So that's like a special kind of film. Luckily, the movie itself is actually really good. It was distracting how stagey it looked. Just know that's all part of the plan, man. So I love on the back the phone. It's just there's no bloody phone in this movie. The actual insert actually makes a lot more sense. It gives a better look. Although even then, like the lighting in this movie is for the most part very bright. As it goes on, it gets a little darker. I think that the director Arthur Allen Seidelman, who director of Hercules in New York, I think that he definitely gradually eases the viewer into this darker, more thriller-like atmosphere. It's a beautifully shot film. The lighting is top notch. Like there's a lot of camera movement. Seidelman is very, very clever in how he uses the camera and how he passes through scenes. It's very dynamic. It never feels lazy. It's an Empire Pictures production, so I was expecting the worst, but it is a professional, albeit very low budget production. So I was quite pleased. Now the coyness of the script, Michael Sloan wrote a script that is very frustrating at times because it's constantly just baiting you and rarely gives you any information to really play with. But it also it manages to keep the tension building throughout, and I think that's something very special, especially when that tension's building for like an hour and 20 minutes. Like, that is impressive, and it keeps going and it keeps going, and man, it had me. It fucking had me. I'm very interested to revisit it and kind of try to pick out any clues along the way, because I was definitely thinking it was a totally different movie for at least 45 minutes. I was thinking it was a completely different movie, and I was pretty shook. Now, for extras on the collar, we get 2 interviews. One is an audio interview with the writer, Michael Sloan. Of course, I'm not a huge fan of this format of interview, but it is a good interview. It's 9.5 minutes. It is fairly informative, and you get a good idea of how he approached the script, which is always nice, and a little bit about his background. And then we get Boiling Over, which is an interview with Arthur Allen Seidelman. That's 15 minutes, and it is, it's good. It is also very informative. It actually competes very nicely with that Alfred Soul interview. It a lot about the production of the film, a lot about what went into it, a lot about the background, how production went. So I think, interview-wise for this set, we're doing pretty good. And then beyond that, we get a promotional stills gallery, which, again, wonderful, great, whatever.
Sure.
All of these, by the way, have great transfers, of course. Some of them are grainier than others. Pandemonium is easily the worst-looking, print, but it's still very clear. Film grain is very filmic. It looks good. Same goes for Indecent Exposure. It's actually interesting to watch the trailer on Indecent Exposure's Blu-ray because it looks so much worse than what we are presented with, but it looks like a good, solid film. That's probably the least visually... Well, they're all visually dynamic. These are all well-shot films, is another thing. They're all very, very well shot, so there's not really a serious issue there. We're not dealing with films made by amateurs. These are all well made to some degree. Indecent Exposure was actually directed by Gary Graver, who was a world-renowned director of photography. Worked with Orson Welles a lot. He was the man, and so obviously, one of the many pornos he directed happens to also look pretty good. The Collar, easily, because it probably had the least fucked up elements as well, looks the best, but they all, look fine. It's Vinegar Syndrome. They're all going to look great. What the fuck do you expect? They look great. They sound great. It's Vinegar Syndrome. Come on. But The Collar is such a good film, but I recommend all of these to some degree. Obviously, Pandemonium is probably the most likely to be immediately sold off on eBay by a lot of people. So that's one where if you can find it on Tubi or whatever, to stream for free first in a less pristine condition version, do that, see if you like the humor, then buy it. But I highly recommend The Collar, and if you're a porno fan, Indecent Exposure is also really solid. So altogether, just really good releases. I can't really go into a lot of details with The Collar. Indecent Exposure is Indecent Exposure, and Pandemonium I talked about. So, all right, and that is another month of Vinegar Syndrome releases. I am still very happy with my annual subscription. I look forward to potentially renewing it if I can afford to.
Your car's been stolen. Your mother's dead.
Here's your bill.
Of course, every month I do like to give a little shout out to our newest patrons on the What the Fuck tier. Everyone who is donating $10 or more a month. So first off, Caitlin Stamper, thank you so much. You have been great in the Discord so far. I like people who are who actively give to the Discord and share their opinions and thoughts and junk. And your last name is Stamper, and that's fun. Stamping. And then Steve Kanicki, thank you so much for joining me on this journey. Steve is one of my best friends in the world. I love Steve. He's my little butt buddy. I love him so much. I rarely see him, unfortunately, but he is so great. And Steve, I just want to thank you so much. So that's it. Enjoy Dragon Con weekend, everybody. If you haven't gotten to be a part of it yet, It is happening through Monday. If you're watching this after Monday, then I guess ignore this. Maybe go to Atlanta next year, because I'm assuming that we'll be allowed back in Atlanta. But it's all free and online and virtual and stuff, so go check it out. It's a lot of fun. Link in the description. And, until next time, go watch a movie.
Your mother and I are very proud of you. We have very high hopes for your future. Unlike your brother Jimmy, the black sheep of the family.